Everyone sitting in the packed stands thought the first round of the 2026 Linz Open would be an absolute walk in the park for hometown favorite Julia Grabher. But Alex Eala stepped onto the red dirt and created an absolute earthquake. The terrifying part is not the clean 6-4, 6-3 scoreline. The truly terrifying part is the secret weapon she just unleashed on the clay court. Most television cameras completely missed it. They just showed a young player hitting the ball hard and winning points. But if you look closely at the raw footage, you will see something entirely different playing out right in front of our eyes. Eala did not just beat Grabher with youth or sheer luck or raw power. She cracked a complex clay court code that most veteran players spend their entire careers trying to figure out. Today we are going to look at the exact mechanism she used to completely dismantle a clay specialist right in her own backyard. We will break down the subtle shifts in her movement, the brilliant geometry she used, and the hidden strategy that left the entire Austrian stadium completely speechless. This is the match that proves she is no longer just a rising star on the tour. She is a tactical genius in the making. But before we dissect exactly how Eala broke Grabher's spirit piece by piece, you need to understand why this specific match should have been an absolute disaster for the young Filipina. Facing Julia Grabher in Austria is not like playing a normal tennis match. It is a completely different sport entirely. It is like walking into a lion den while wearing a suit made of fresh meat. Grabher is a pure clay court specialist who has dedicated her life to mastering this specific terrain. She lives and breathes on this unforgiving surface. She hits this massive heavy topspin forehand that kicks up viciously high above your shoulders. That ball rips through the thick red dirt, grabs the surface, and forces you miles behind the baseline just to survive the rally. Every time Grabher hits that forehand, she is essentially pushing you further and further out of the television screen. Add a screaming crowd of thousands of passionate Austrians completely backing their hometown hero, and you have a recipe for a total nightmare. The noise in Linz that day was deafening. Every time Grabher won a point, the stadium erupted. Now, put Alex Eala in that exact scenario. Eala is a player who originally built her game on aggressive flat hitting on fast, hard courts. She likes the ball right at waist height, where she can step in, take the ball early, and dictate the rapid pace of the point. Clay naturally neutralizes that exact style of play. The thick dirt slows down her pace, takes the sharp sting out of her flat drives, and makes her heavy, offensive shots feel completely ordinary to a seasoned defensive specialist like Grabher. Plus, the mental pressure resting on Eala's shoulders right now is absolutely suffocating. She desperately needs ranking points right now to finally break into the WTA top 30. Getting into that elite bracket secures her a precious seeding for the upcoming French Open. That means avoiding the giants of the sport in the critical early rounds of a Grand Slam. Every single match on this European swing is do or die for her career trajectory. So picture the scene unfolding in front of you. A young player desperate for ranking points, facing a veteran clay specialist on her home soil, who hits a ball specifically designed to destroy flat hitters. For a player like Eala, this specific clay court setup is basically the perfect trap. The physics of the court, the style of the opponent, and the sheer hostility of the crowd all dictate that she should have been pushed around, left exhausted, and eventually swept off the court in straight sets. The script was already written for a routine Grabher victory. The local Austrian media expected it. The die-hard tennis fans expected it. Honestly, nobody would have blamed Eala for losing this one. It was arguably the hardest possible draw she could have asked for at this stage of the tournament. With all of those massive disadvantages stacking up against her from the very first ball, Eala should have been blown off the court within the first 45 minutes. She should have been overwhelmed by the heavy topspin and the deafening noise echoing through the stadium. But she was not. Instead, she did something no one in the stadium expected. If you find yourself holding your breath, waiting to see how she flipped the script on this impossible situation, join the Tennis Pulse family by subscribing right now, because we are about to expose the brilliant adjustment she made in the very first set that completely froze Grabher in her tracks. The first secret behind Grabher's collapse lies in Eala's footwork before the ball even left the racket. While 90% of players would step back to avoid the spin, Eala did the exact opposite. She stepped up. To truly appreciate the brilliance of this move, you have to put yourself in the shoes of a normal tennis player facing Julia Grabher on clay. When Grabher hits her heavy topspin serve, the ball does not just bounce. It explodes off the dirt. It kicks violently upward, aiming right for your collarbone. The natural human instinct when facing that kind of aggressive trajectory is to retreat. You want to take 2 or 3 massive steps backward toward the stadium wall just to give the ball enough time to drop back down into a comfortable hitting zone. This is exactly what Grabher wants you to do. By forcing you deep into the backcourt, she instantly takes control of the geometry of the point. She owns the baseline while you are practically standing in the front row of the audience, swinging defensively just to keep the rally alive. Eala knew this trap perfectly well, so she made a terrifying tactical decision that completely altered the physics of the match. She glued her sneakers to the baseline. She refused to give up even 1 single inch of red clay. When Grabher tossed the ball up, Eala did not retreat. She leaned forward. This takes an absurd amount of hand-eye coordination and raw nerve. By taking the ball incredibly early right off the bounce, Eala completely short-circuited the topspin. She hit the ball before it had the chance to kick up and ruin her swing path. She caught it right in her perfect strike zone at waist height. The risk here is monumental. If you are even a fraction of a second late on your timing when you stand that close to the bounce, you will shank the ball completely out of the stadium. It is a high-wire act without a safety net. But Eala executed it with ruthless precision. She turned Grabher's biggest weapon into a massive liability. Imagine being Grabher in this scenario. You hit your best heavy serve. You expect your opponent to be pushed back, fighting for survival. Instead, the ball comes screaming back at your shoelaces before you have even finished your service motion. Eala was not just hitting the ball hard, she was stealing time. She robbed Grabher of the precious fractions of a second needed to set up her next shot. Let us dig deeper into exactly how frustrating this time theft is for a clay court specialist. Tennis at the professional level is entirely about rhythm and time. Grabher builds her entire game plan on a specific rhythm. Serve heavy, push the opponent back, take a breath, set up the forehand, and dictate the play. Eala shattered that sequence completely. By standing right on the baseline and half-volleying those heavy returns, she essentially played ping-pong against a tennis player. The ball was coming back across the net twice as fast as Grabher expected. Grabher was constantly hitting her second shot while still off balance. She was rushed, panicked, and completely out of her comfort zone. You could clearly see the panic setting in during the crucial moments of the first set. Grabher started overhitting. She tried to add even more spin and even more pace to force Eala backward. But the harder Grabher hit, the faster the ball returned. Eala was using the pace against her. It was a masterclass in aggressive court positioning. She created a suffocating invisible wall right at the baseline. Grabher could not hit through it, and she could not hit over it. The baseline belonged entirely to the young Filipina. Let us think about the psychological damage this does to a home favorite. Grabher was playing in front of her own people. She expected to dominate the tempo. Instead, she felt suffocated. Every time she looked across the net, Eala was standing right there, hovering over the baseline like a predator waiting to strike. It creates an incredible amount of mental fatigue when your best shots keep coming back faster than you hit them. Grabher was physically drained, but more importantly, she was mentally broken by the middle of the first set. That return tactic neutralized Grabher's best weapon, but it was not the reason Grabher lost the match entirely. The most terrifying piece of Eala's game that day actually came straight from Rafael Nadal's academy. This is what even the veteran commentators missed during this match. If you look closely at how Eala slides on the red clay, you will see the tactical ghost of one man, Tony Nadal. Everyone knows Eala trains at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain, but we usually associate that training with intense physical conditioning and mental toughness. We rarely talk about the specific architectural geometry they teach on the dirt. Eala has always been an aggressive flat hitter. That is her DNA. But in Linz, she revealed a complete evolution in her movement that entirely changed her identity as a player. She transformed from a hard court attacker into a genuine clay court strategist. The secret lies in the slide. Most players on the WTA Tour use the slide defensively. They run out wide, stretch their legs, slide to a stop, and barely chip the ball back into the court just to stay alive. They use the slide to break. Eala used the slide to attack. When Grabher tried to pull Eala wide with sharp cross-court angles, Eala did not just chase the ball. She anticipated the trajectory and slid into the shot with her weight transferring forward. By planting her outside foot flawlessly on the red dirt, she created an explosive base of power at the absolute extreme edges of the court. She was not just surviving out there in the doubles alley. She was setting a brilliant trap. This is the exact court geometry that made Rafael Nadal the undisputed king of clay. You pull him wide, thinking you have opened up the court, but he uses that extreme wide position to hit a devastating passing shot down the line. Eala was executing this exact same pattern with incredible ferocity. Grabher would hit a great angle thinking she had won the point, but Eala would slide in, stabilize her core, and rip a flat winner right past Grabher's outstretched racket. By sliding into that wide forehand, Eala creates a vicious angle down the line that is mathematically impossible to defend if the opponent is standing in the center. Let us break down the biomechanics of what Eala was actually doing. When you slide on clay, you usually lose all your forward momentum. Your body weight shifts backward to prevent you from falling over. But Eala has learned to slide while keeping her chest leaning forward over her front knee. This allows her to keep her racket head speed incredibly high, even while moving laterally across the slippery dirt. You can actually hear the difference in how she moves. It is a sharp, aggressive scrape against the clay, followed immediately by the loud crack of the tennis ball. Before we look at the insane numbers behind this strategy, I am genuinely curious if you noticed this massive shift in her footwork during the live broadcast. Drop a comment below and tell me if you saw those shades of the Nadal Academy in her movement today, because realizing this tactical change honestly blew my mind. The geometry was totally inverted. Grabher thought she was the one moving Eala around, but Eala was actually baiting Grabher into hitting those wide shots. She wanted Grabher to open up the court so she could exploit the empty space. This level of spatial awareness is incredibly rare for a young player. It shows a deep, sophisticated understanding of how to use the entire dimension of the clay court. When you combine the aggressive return position with this new predatory sliding technique, you get a terrifying combination. Eala was smothering Grabher on the returns, and then completely outmaneuvering her in the long rallies. She took away the time, and she took away the space. Imagine standing on the court against someone who refuses to let the ball bounce high and punishes you every time you try to hit a wide angle. There is literally nowhere safe to put the tennis ball. Grabher was trapped in a tactical vice grip that kept getting tighter with every single game. The hometown crowd was stunned into absolute silence. The topspin that usually destroyed opponents was completely neutralized, and the wide angles were being punished without mercy. Eala was no longer just relying on her youthful energy to win points. She was playing high-level chess against a seasoned veteran. She calculated every angle, measured every slide, and dismantled her opponent with surgical precision. It sounds crazy to say a young rising star is using Nadal's court geometry to destroy veteran players, but the statistics coming up next will prove this is not just talk. We do not have to guess, because the numbers from this match are absolute, undeniable proof. Just look at Eala's win percentage on Grabher's second serve. Eala won a staggering number of those points. That specific statistic is currently performing significantly better than the overall average of the top 10 players in the world right now. Let us look closely at two pivotal points in the second set, where both of these massive tactical shifts worked perfectly together in flawless harmony. The score was tight, and Grabher was serving desperately, trying to hold her ground. She hit a heavy second serve, kicking it high to Eala's backhand. Eala did exactly what we analyzed earlier. She took two aggressive steps inside the baseline, caught the ball incredibly early, and punched a deep return straight down the middle of the court. Grabher was instantly jammed. She had no time to set her feet or wind up her massive forehand. Grabher rushed the shot and hit a weak loopy ball sitting right in the middle of the court. Eala immediately recognized the opportunity. She sprinted forward, taking the ball completely on the rise, and ripped a clean winner deep into the corner. Grabher literally did not even move her feet. She just watched the ball fly past her. That one single point perfectly encapsulated the entire match. Eala used aggressive positioning to steal time, forced a weak reply, and then used her incredible racket speed to finish the point on her own terms. The statistics tell a brutal story about Grabher's performance under this intense pressure. Grabher's unforced error count skyrocketed in the second set. But if you dig deeper into the data, you will see that these were not just random, careless mistakes. They were forced errors disguised as unforced errors. Grabher was constantly hitting the ball from uncomfortable, awkward positions because Eala was systematically manipulating the geometry of the court. Eala was forcing Grabher to hit her backhand while moving backward, or hit her forehand while fully stretched out on the run. When you force a player to constantly hit from unbalanced positions, their error count naturally spikes. Grabher simply broke down under the relentless mathematical pressure that Eala applied to every single rally. Julia Grabher did not actually play a bad match. She hit her spots, she tried to use her heavy topspin, and she fought incredibly hard in front of her home crowd. She was simply and completely decoded. Eala walked onto that court with a blueprint designed to neutralize Grabher's specific weapons, and she executed that blueprint with cold, terrifying precision. This was not a lucky win or a fluke. This was a tactical dismantling of a veteran player on her strongest surface. Eala proved that she does not just have the raw power to hit through opponents. She proved she has the tennis IQ to completely outsmart them. The victory was comprehensive, absolute, and strategically brilliant. But the real question is what this victory actually means for the rest of her season. This clean 6-4, 6-3 win does not just put Alex Eala into the second round of the Linz Open. It sends a massive flashing red warning signal to the entire WTA Tour. Think about the implications of this performance. Eala has always been considered a massive threat on fast, hard courts where her flat, aggressive hitting style thrives naturally. But clay has always been the ultimate question mark for her. Could she move well enough? Could she handle the heavy spin? Could she construct points patiently on the slowest surface in tennis? This match answered all of those questions with a resounding yes. Eala proved that she can not only survive on the red dirt, but she can actively dictate the tactical terms of the match against a genuine clay court specialist. If she can play this sophisticated level of strategic tennis on clay under the immense pressure of a hostile home crowd, she instantly becomes a legitimate threat to absolutely anyone she faces. This win is a massive concrete stepping stone toward her ultimate goal of breaking into the top 30. Securing that seeded position for the French Open is no longer just a distant dream. It is a very real, tangible possibility. She has the game, she has the movement, and most importantly, she now has the tactical maturity to win matches that she should on paper lose. The evolution we witness today changes her entire career trajectory. The WTA Tour is officially on notice. The young Filipina is not just coming for the hard court titles anymore. She is coming for the dirt. The question is no longer if she can compete at the highest level on clay. The question is, who can actually stop her when she is sliding and striking with this kind of lethal precision? If she has truly mastered this incredibly difficult surface, who is going to prevent her from smashing straight into the top 30 this year? Her next match against Jelena Ostapenko will be an absolute survival test against one of the heaviest hitters in the world. We are going to break down every single angle of that upcoming war, right here on Tennis Pulse. So, make sure you subscribe right now because you will not want to miss how Eala handles that explosive firepower. See you in the next breakdown.